Hi everybody, welcome to NoisePond. My name is Brett. This is a channel dedicated to music recommendations, and today I got a review for you of the new By Storm record, My Ghost Go Ghost. By Storm comes to us as a result of tragedy. This Phoenix-based duo features the founding members of the iconic and on the rise experimental hip-hop group Injury Reserve, minus one, that being Steppa J. Groggs, who unfortunately passed away before the release of their most acclaimed and experimental record to date by the time I get to Phoenix. Now, that record was supposedly near full execution before Groggs' passing, but there was a lot to be interpreted on that project that could fit the sorrowful portrayal of this grief-stricken moment in time for the group. It was out of respect that the other two members, lead rapper and vocalist Richie and producer Parker Corey, would kind of let the Injury Reserve name and legacy rest with Groggs and move on themselves, mind, body, and spirit onto their next chapter, By Storm. Now, this is not to say that Groggs' sonic and relational influence is completely swept under the rug, as in fact, My Ghost Go Ghost feels still heavily a grief-stricken project. It feels like a correction course for how Richie and Parker can progress creatively, finding beauty in the next steps to come while still showing the respect to a lost friend. Before this project, I was definitely a fan of Injury Reserve, and I was quite enthusiastic about their come up in the scene at the time where abstract hip-hop was becoming a bit more normalized and receiving critical success. And I was afraid with the loss of Groggs that we'd either never hear from the group again or we would just kind of lose a bit of the magic along the way. Well, fortunately, we're here, and they did release music, and By Storm's debut effort basically builds upon the framework of Injury Reserve's legacy, producing a new scope of surreal introspection and experimentation. 4 singles were released leading up to this project, almost half the record, and I held myself from them all except the last one, And I Dance, and I think that's a decision that proved very fruitful, at least for myself, as the other singles coming into this just felt so fresh and cutting edge alongside the rest of the record. I think it was quite hard to describe in a few words Injury Reserve, and by the time I get to Phoenix, and I think that's like the same with My Ghost Go Ghost sonically. It's more creative, abstract hip-hop with glitchy glimpses behind the curtain of this group's current psyche. And over its length, I think Richie's solo vocal presence proves quite strong, and of course Parker provides just a wide array of complex sounds and samples. So let's do a little spelunking and get through this track by track. The opener, Can I Have You All For Myself, details Richie's love for his romantic partner and how now bringing in a child is going to completely change their lives and sense of responsibility. He instinctually wants to be greedy and keep all of her love and attention for himself, knowing that will soon change and she will bear the weight physically of having a child and a responsibility of taking care of it as well. And even though this is about Richie and his family, it all feels very allegorical to Groggs' passing and plays off 2 bits depressing and 2 bits blissful. Parker's warm and gentle glitch play on the production utilizes acoustics and pitched up vocals to breathe this youthful longing into motion. It's a very slow burning, drawn-out track that just provides a signature taste to what this album is all about. The next song, Dead Weight, is a very introspective back and forth in Richie's psyche on whether his hair, which could also be allegorical for Groggs' passing or just other griefs, is physically dragging him down and is acting like dead weight. He's fighting off these suggestions and impressions of others while admitting through internal warfare that it is indeed taking a toll on him. He wants to admit that none of it's dragging him down, but it almost feels like a certain lie as it rolls off his tongue. This track itself plays into this very wish-washy sound with these conclusive angular guitar arpeggios joined later by this hazy building breakbeat that contrasts that confidence, clouding the sound, clouding this judgment. The track, fitting to its title, ends with such a weighted emphasis on the percussion and the atmosphere that you're almost feeling for yourself this dead weight, this burden. The next track, Grapefruit, dives into the constant clash and the give and take in the music industry and commodifying artistic expression and personal stories. From Richie's perspective, they just want to rip you open and scoop you out like grapefruit, or in another case, he provides vulnerability and then there's nobody on the other side to even care enough. It's another drawn out heavy loop track with a psychedelic mixture of strings, drone, and piano. It will have you sludging through the snow at like the dead of night singing grapefruit. I really love the next track, In My Town, which is one of the more direct songs, shedding light on the struggle of survival for a recording and touring artist. For Richie, it was manageable on the come up, but now starting a family, it goes beyond all that and just survival. Nowadays, 2 Cliff Bars don't just work for him to get through it anymore. He needs a large amount, and all he can think about are those envelopes and artist payments and making them work for his life in his town. I love the dark, dramatic backdrop and atmosphere to this track. It all leads into this nice like trail or train of thought that's just lingering and makes stops no matter where you go, and it's just something you have to constantly confront and think about in like the back of your head, this idea of struggle and being able to get past it. And this is what My Ghost Go Ghost is kind of all about, you know, looking to escape those lingering thoughts or situations, or you're just zigzagging and you ain't dodged nothing, like on the next one, Zigzag. And I've seen a lot of middling feelings over this track compared to the other song, but I personally absolutely love it. I think this one is a slow burn with very progressive performances by both members. Richie is caught in this poetic loop, preaching to himself about his efforts and success and escapism, and that he's just been zigging and zagging around the issue or around his dreams and can't quite just make a through line to a destination, while Parker is dialing up a smorgasbord of samples and little trinket sounds and layers of drone. It's like watching a time lapse of a canvas just slowly be brought to life while meandering over like the same artistic points. Now for me, it was really the next one. I mean, if you're not in the mood for sporadic screeching violin impressions, then it may be in your worst interest to check out Best Interest, featuring the man, Billy Woods. I mean, like a frigid night with a high wind chill around a scenery of dead, naked trees. This track is so somber and so cold. Its beat is by far the simplest on the record, but of course the eerie violin scratches give quite an edge to the track, and they even ride a bit over the vocal layers here. Might be a bit distracting, even when a king lyricist like Billy Woods takes flight. Again, it's probably my least favorite on the record, as the vision doesn't fully develop in the way I think the other tracks do on My Ghost Go Ghost, but in no way does it take from the collective built environment of Bystorm. Now, the true fan favorite here is Double Trio 2, and that is one for a reason. I mean, this is the most explosive and vibrant in-your-face sound and production on the whole record, and it's impossible not to get enlightened by all of its power. There's so many hearty, uplifting sounds that still feel edgy as all hell and experimental, blending electronics and jazzy saxophone together. All while Richie is near his most confident, confronting the evolution of his grief and trying to confront or escape the turning over events since Grog's passing. The conviction and conflicting emotional performance is so palpable and complementing the Goliath soundscape that you're enveloped in on this track. And if Double Trio 2 represents the sonic climax of this record, then I believe And I Dance is the chilling victory lap. Richie again has this bravado about him and is performing like prime Jay-Z over a dusty drum loop. I saw a comment somewhere saying it sounds like a futuristic Watch the Throne track, and by God does that feel so true. And like the best out of the old experimental Kanye, Parker emphasizes this bright, pitched up vocal play, additionally providing a giddy, hopeful demeanor which fits the lyrical tone of this song. And while this one feels a bit more abstract, lyrically than the other tracks. Anti-Dance feels like the true turning point of dealing with trauma and of dealing with grief, of dealing with your ghost. There's nothing more, it seems, to run from here. There's beauty to call back on, and there's beauty to push forward with. We lose focus of all the bad and all the negatives, and we lose focus of the ashes in our locks around the fire, and all that is left to do is dance. And then we have the closer to this record, basically the title track, G, 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 which is a bittersweet, conclusive statement to the project. I mean, the sweeping melodic highs of the acoustic melody here, so great, and then they just like sail back down to reality like the tides. It's more just beautiful and memorable loops and continuously beats in your head like the rest of this project. That beauty and tragedy are just like forever intertwined. In fact, this entire album's aesthetic and question slash understanding of like a ghost going ghost can be interpreted in many ways, and I choose to look at it, I think, in a positive but inconclusive way, and that like the ghost of the lost soul is not long to stick around forever or follow someone everywhere, and like life itself, it must move on to someplace maybe we don't know, but everything has to move on continuously. And GGG feels like that final push or that final gust of wind sailing a ghost off into another realm of possibilities, though eerily, I mean, in true By Storm, Injured Reserve fashion, this song has like a hard cutoff in the middle of one of its measures, again kind of just leaving you to wonder what that can mean, and it just feels like an abrupt, just cold finish. And I'm not so sure myself, but what it does is wrap up that My Ghost Goes is a hell of a palatable emotional journey full of challenging sounds and surreal lyricism. There is a wealthy amount of creative output to investigate here while instinctually just soaking up what are some heavier emotional tones. It all feels so real and personable, while at the same time you can easily kind of veg out and get lost in its soundscape. And overall, this feels like the most appropriate evolution from By the Time I Get to Phoenix. The dense sounds and textures and mood won't be for everyone if you're not familiar with these creatives, but it should fit right at home for fans of Injury Reserve as it's further watching a group evolve and master their craft. And we're gonna say I love and highly recommend By Storm's My Ghost Goes. I will also say I can only think about Danny Phantom when I hear this title, and I don't know if they're Nickelodeon fans or if that has any intent, but shout out Danny Phantom. As always, artist links and my music socials are below. Let me know how you feel about this one, and come around next time for some more music recs around the pond. Peace.